what I wanted to talk about with revising your This I Believe essay does have a lot to do with purpose. So I'm going to come over to the transcript of the video that's in the paragraph and essay development folder on purpose and genre. And in this video, it wants you to ask yourself, what do I want this piece of writing to do for both my reader and for me? This is essential to your progress as a writer. During my time as a teacher and working at the Writing Center at BYU, Idaho, I have seen students who think that their only purpose in writing is to get a good grade and to please the teacher. Now, while a grade is important, it is not the purpose you want to choose for your papers. If you can find your own internal purpose for writing that paper, you will write far better than otherwise. You will progress far more as a writer. And this is what saved me in college. There would often be times that perhaps I didn't identify well with my teacher. We didn't get along. And the teacher would assign something and I wasn't excited about the prompt. But if I read through the instructions for that essay, I could usually find a way to use that topic for something I cared about. I could make the essay about my own passion and my own story. I could use it to communicate what was important to me with the rest of the world. This is what I want you to do with this essay. It's a good opportunity to practice communicating for your own sake, to express yourself. So as you're reading through your essay, I want you to ask yourself, does this paragraph or this sentence communicate my purpose? Is it what I'm trying to say? Is it what I'm passionate about? And that means that I hope you've chosen a good theme, that the belief you're trying to communicate is something you truly believe in, because that should make the passion easy. That should make the expression much easier. Now, I want to give a brief example of editing for purpose in my own brief draft I've written over here. So in this draft, I start out with my thesis, with what I believe in, and that's an important part in the rubric, so make sure you do that too. But I say, I believe in truth. And then I start heading into a memory, which is good because you want to use memories and experiences to show why something is important to you. I say, I remember the first day I realized how important knowing the truth was for me. I was 15 and working at a bridal shop. Okay, this is good. I'm getting concrete here. I loved working there. Every day I got to run my hands down satin lace and sequined skirts as I bundled up the dresses and hung them on the rack. Okay, so now I'm getting distracted by dresses, and I continue to get distracted. And I talk about the beautiful blushing faces of the future brides. And none of this has to do with the memory that I'm actually trying to get to. I'm trying to get to this moment when I talked with my boss and she told me this story about her neighbor. Here's what the neighbor said. Just a few days ago, right after his high school graduation, they just told their son he's not actually their son. He's their grandson. And here he is, newly graduated, and realizing that his sister is actually his mother. She threw her hands in the air, her eyes wide with bafflement. I can't believe they did that to him. They just shouldn't have told him. And this leads me to think about, why do I think truth is important? Okay, but does running my hand down dresses and seeing the beautiful faces of brides have anything to do with that story? Not really. It doesn't help my purpose of communicating the importance of truth. So when you're editing for purpose, feel free to delete entire paragraphs, entire sentences when they don't line up with your purpose, even if you've spent time making it beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I just deleted that paragraph, even though I liked the description in it and thought it was beautiful. It doesn't help my purpose. So that's how you can really focus on purpose. And if while you're editing your essay, you feel like, well, none of this really resonates with me, it doesn't capture the passion of my purpose, try writing on a blank page. Just try writing on it again and seeing if new experiences or ideas come up that you are passionate about and that do fulfill your own purpose with the paper. Okay, so there's purpose. I also want to briefly say that another of the videos in the paragraph and essay development folder focuses on audience, and make sure that you pay attention to that video as well, because focusing on audience is important. It helps us remember that we're communicating to someone outside of ourselves, and they might not understand what we're talking about. It helps us explain ourselves more clearly. It helps us think through our descriptions and our experiences. It's very important to revision. So there's purpose and audience. Now I just want to show you a brief example of using concrete experiences as well as reflection and thought, because that's something that is asked for in the rubric. Remember, I do follow the rubric carefully, so if you write your essay according to that rubric, you will do well. Okay, the rubric wants the one clearly stated belief, like I had here. I believe in truth. It needs to be well organized, have transitions, and then it says use specific examples and events to show readers this belief rather than only tell them about it. It also contains thoughtful reflection on the examples or events related to the belief. So you need example, reflection, example, reflection. Okay, they weave together. So here I've got my example as me and my boss talk about this experience. And I say, wait, you think they should have just lied to him his whole life? Yes, she didn't hesitate. It would have been much kinder to just keep things the way they were. They have been his real parents his whole life. There isn't so much of a lie in continuing to call themselves that. And besides, what good does the truth do him? Okay, there's the end of the experience. And then I start to reflect. I remember beginning to tentatively, almost incredulously, try to sort out our differing feelings, sure that we would quickly come to agree just by talking. But I soon realized she was very sure of her opinion. After that, I examined my own feelings more carefully. Why did I feel that it was better to tell a truth rather than a lie, even if that truth would cause deep pain and confusion? What made that truth so important to me? Okay, do you see how that's reflecting? That's expanding on my thoughts about this experience. And then I start to head into another experience, but I don't do so well. I'll give you a spoiler there. This doesn't turn out well. As I followed the threads of my thoughts, they led me to the memory of a person, Christine. I've known her all my life, and I've watched her slowly stumble upon truth after truth that have hurt her terribly, and yet they have made her into a stronger person. I admire her strength and kindness, and I do not know if she would have had the depth of character without the pain of truth. So here, this is like a pseudo experience, and look for these in your paper. This is where I tell you about an experience, but I don't actually give you the detail and description that we cultivated in our love letters. I'm not helping you enter the experience and come to the conclusion I came to. So this is where I would invite you to add in that description, especially at a pivotal moment like this. This experience is supposed to be where I realize why truth is so important to me. I would say this experience is even more important than the experience I related that tells why I started thinking about truth. This is the beginning of my thoughts on truth, but this is where my thoughts on truth culminate. This experience should really explain my feelings. So I should go in and talk about Christine. What were the truths that she stumbled upon, and how did that change her life? Maybe just a longer paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs, and then I would reflect on it again. And here I do have a little reflection to end in my conclusion. Truth helps us become who we are. Truth helps us stand strong in the real sunlight and make changes in the real earth. I believe in truth. Okay, so that sort of brings it together to come back to the belief. So there are my suggestions on revision. Edit for purpose, to make sure everything is relevant and draws on your true passion and purpose for the essay. And then revise to make sure you've got concrete experiences as well as reflection on those experiences. Okay? If you have any questions or want me to help you revise your This I Believe essay, please feel free to email it to me and I can send video feedback back to you, or we can have a video conference and actually work on revising it together over the internet. Okay? Let me know how I can help. I'm really looking forward to your final essays.